Hey guys, I'm back at it again. And surprisingly, it's only been like hopefully a week when I upload this, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, surprisingly, I was able to complete the next game I'm going to be talking about, which is Bioshock 2. To my surprise, most of, if not all, the people who actually made the first game declined on actually making the second game, since during this time they actually made a new studio to actually work on Bioshock 2. Which, if you know anything about creating, well, basically anything, this is kind of a bad omen, already off to a horrible start. But within less than a year, they were able to create Bioshock 2. Now, this story takes an interesting turn, and you follow not a man, but actually a big daddy, who is imprinted on a little sister called Eleanor Lamb. She gets a little too cocky and gets jumped. We try to save her, and we actually come face to face with the main villain of the game, Lamb. And you guessed it, that's actually mother of the little sister that we're actually protecting. She makes us kill ourselves, and 10 years go by, and apparently when you shoot yourself in the head, you just magically heal in 10 years. So, if you get shot in the head, don't worry, just wait 10 years and you'll be back up and running like nothing ever happened. Soon after coming back to life, we actually meet a character from the previous game who actually created the Little Sisters and decides to help us out looking for our little sister. And so we started our journey, same as the last one, making a few pit stops here and there, meeting new people. We find out that Lamb is actually trying to make Eleanor their Lord and Savior because she thinks that's actually what she is. We come face to face with her just to find out that when we got shot in the head, we actually did die, but Eleanor was a step ahead and actually used our DNA to bring us back to life. So now we're actually magically linked to each other. But soon after realizing that, Lamb actually puts us to sleep and sever that connection. Eleanor is actually able to help us out a little bit more, and in the process, we actually make Eleanor more into a monster than what Lamb said previously. But in truth, her becoming the monster that Lamb actually loathed, she actually becomes the savior of the little sisters, saving all of them just like we did in the first game and in this one. We finally leave Rapture, but our body actually decays. Eleanor does exactly what she did 10 years ago and takes our DNA and just says that we'll be with her forever, which we basically kind of are. It's more of like a memory of sorts. And the most interesting story wise is actually ended off on a, I guess you could say, cliffhanger. Who knows, maybe in Bioshock 4 they'll actually go back to this idea. But Eleanor actually makes it to the surface along with all the little sisters that she saved, and it's just basically her and them adventuring out to the new world that they're actually able to explore now. And this is actually the most interesting story beat that I just outright wish we actually got more of. But to my knowledge, this is basically where it ends. But even then, the story itself is very much the same as tone and almost as villain as well as the previous one. But even so, they make a little bit more effort in it, putting Eleanor in our personal connection with, and actually giving us a drive to actually continue marching forward, along with actually adding a little bit more of a morale choice, if you would. Now, they don't do it like crazy, but they do it a little bit more than the previous game has to say, and I do appreciate that. For example, there's actually a villain you meet that actually wants to outright kill you. With a little bit of a misunderstanding, you actually clear that up, and you actually have a choice to save her or just outright kill her. Now, it doesn't affect anything in the grandiose, but it does affect your gameplay a little bit, which is honestly a cool little touch they actually decided to add in with this game. We get a whole new arsenal of weapons to fight with. Now, a good amount of them is just the exact same weapon, just a different name and a different look. I won't harp on it too much since they are the same weapons. They actually are still a lot of fun to play around with. And a little cool thing they added is if you actually upgrade each weapon to their max, you get a little surprise. The only new weapon is the melee one. Instead of a wrench, you actually get a drill, letting you Wolverine some of these fools. I mean, they just keep on walking into it, so why not? With a sequel, you can expect changes big or small, one of them being They revamped the camera system. Instead of a photo and you getting points for it, they actually want you to take a photo and kill the same enemy in unique and diverse ways with different weapons and different plasma. Now, if you ask me, I don't particularly like this change. I prefer the original version of this. But one change I absolutely agree 100% is the hacking system. Instead of that dumb puzzle, you actually just have to time it in. Green being good and blue also being good, but also giving you a little bit of an extra surprise with it. And remember how I said in the previous game, you actually had different ammo, and they didn't really particularly do much except do more damage, even though other ammos would also do damage? Well, in this game, they actually do different stuff. There's certain ones that actually do fire explosions, trap mechanism, or even mini turrets. It's kind of crazy they actually took that criticism almost as if they saw my video, which I know that's impossible, but hey, can't help but dream, right? The last segment they actually outright change is the whole atom system. Beforehand, you actually just got from the little sisters killing them or rescuing them, which is still a thing in this one, except you actually have multiple chances on actually killing them or saving them, depending on which way you actually want to go with it. Because you can actually do a little bit of a bloodhound type thing. When you actually do get a little sister, you can track down an atom positive body and basically protect the little sister while it's actually gathering said atom by a horde of enemies. And in these areas, you can just absolutely do whatever the fuck you want. Absolutely crazy with the weapons, plasma, everything. Whether you want to set up multiple traps, multiple mini turrets, or even just use the environment to your advantage, you can do whatever you want. And these sections I absolutely love, since another thing that's kind of a mini change is that the amount of enemies in this game is absolutely staggering. They just pummel you with enemies for benefit. Because in the previous game, the combat was honestly really fun, but in this one, it's a little bit more fluid, a little bit more fast paced, if you would. And even though it's just a little bit, it's enough to make it a whole entirely different ball game. And I know I'm making it sound out to be it's only this small little section of the game, but it's actually during the whole game itself. It absolutely pummels you with multiple upon multiple enemies, really encouraging you to just go absolutely batshit whenever you do see one. Because if you see one, there's at least five more around the corner. Now, the tone of the game is also different. I'm unsure if I actually mentioned this in the first game, but this is a horror franchise. The first one had the environment down, but never actually had the overall tone for it. And well, this one has both the environment and the tone, and actually pushing it to where there are areas that are straight up from an actual horror game. One of them being where I was in a building hearing screams with dolls, and then suddenly just got pitch black. A fire broke out, and then a fight broke out. As the music during all of this just kept on getting louder and louder as this goes on. And this is just one of those moments where I was actually kind of a little bit scared. This does what a sequel to a game should do. This is somehow even better than the previous one, making small or big changes, or just outright revamping old systems, and just trimming the fat of the previous game had to show. Almost to the point where this is perfection, which is an achievement very hard to do, especially when it comes from this company's history. And for that, I am once again proud to say that they were able to accomplish this. But you know the saying where nothing lasts forever, and the same is for this. Especially when you actually stop and think about the next game is Bioshock Infinite, and this being the last game, even till right now. Now, as for that being a good sign or a bad sign, we'll just have to wait until I undoubtedly review this game next. And with that, have a good morning, good night, wherever you're at, and if it's your birthday, have a birthday, and hope you have a peaceful day.